In 1864, the American Civil War had reached a critical turning point. After 3 years of brutal fighting, both the Union and the Confederacy were exhausted, yet neither side was willing to surrender. The war had already claimed hundreds of thousands of lives, and the future of the United States hung in the balance. At the center of this decisive phase stood two key Union leaders, Ulysses S. Grant and William Tecumseh Sherman. Together, they would implement a bold and aggressive strategy designed not just to defeat Confederate armies, but to break the South's ability and will to continue the war. Grant, newly appointed as General-in-Chief of all Union armies, understood that previous strategies had failed because they lacked coordination. Union forces had often operated independently, allowing Confederate armies to shift and respond effectively. Grant changed this approach entirely. He developed a unified plan to apply constant pressure on all fronts, ensuring that Confederate forces could not regroup or reinforce one another. While Grant personally engaged General Robert E. Lee in Virginia, he entrusted Sherman with a critical mission in the Western Theater, the capture of Atlanta. Why Atlanta mattered? Atlanta, Georgia, was not just another Southern city. It was one of the Confederacy's most vital industrial and transportation hubs. Railroads converged there, connecting supply lines across the South. Factories in the city produced weapons, ammunition, and other essential materials for the Confederate war effort. If Atlanta fell, the Confederacy would lose a major logistical center. More importantly, it would deal a devastating psychological blow. For Abraham Lincoln, the stakes were even higher. The presidential election of 1864 was approaching, and public support for the war in the North was weakening. A major victory like the capture of Atlanta could reinvigorate morale and secure Lincoln's re-election, ensuring the continuation of the Union war effort. The beginning of the campaign in May 1864, Sherman began his campaign with approximately 100,000 Union soldiers. Facing him was Confederate General Joseph E. Johnston, who commanded around 60,000 troops. Rather than launching direct assaults, Johnston adopted a defensive strategy. He skillfully used the rugged terrain of northern Georgia, mountains, forests, and rivers, to slow Sherman's advance. Time and again, Johnston would establish strong defensive positions, forcing Sherman to maneuver around them rather than attack head-on. Sherman, however, proved equally strategic. Instead of sacrificing large numbers of troops in costly frontal assaults, he relied on flanking movements. He repeatedly outmaneuvered Johnston, forcing Confederate forces to retreat further south toward Atlanta. This series of movements became known as the Atlanta Campaign, a masterclass in military maneuvering, a war of movement and pressure as Sherman advanced deeper into Georgia. The campaign became a war of endurance. Both armies faced intense heat, difficult terrain, and constant skirmishes. Sherman's strategy reflected Grant's broader vision, continuous pressure. The goal was not just to win battles, but to wear down the Confederacy's ability to fight. Every mile gained by Sherman pushed Confederate forces closer to Atlanta. Every retreat weakened Southern morale. Despite his effective defensive tactics, Johnston's reluctance to engage in decisive battles frustrated Confederate leadership. In July 1864, Confederate President Jefferson Davis made a controversial decision. He replaced Johnston with the more aggressive General John Bell Hood. Hood's aggressive strategy, unlike Johnston, Hood believed in direct confrontation. He launched a series of bold attacks against Sherman's forces in an attempt to stop the Union advance. However, these attacks came at a heavy cost. Battles such as Peachtree Creek, the Battle of Atlanta, and Ezra Church resulted in significant Confederate casualties. While Hood's aggressive tactics demonstrated determination, they ultimately weakened his army. Sherman, maintaining his strategic discipline, avoided unnecessary losses and continued tightening his grip around Atlanta. The Siege of Atlanta. By late summer 1864, Sherman had effectively surrounded Atlanta. Instead of launching an immediate full-scale assault, he initiated a siege. Union forces targeted the railroad supplying the city, cutting off vital resources. Without steady supplies of food, ammunition, and reinforcements, Confederate forces inside Atlanta began to struggle. Civilians also suffered greatly. As the siege continued, shortages increased, and the constant threat of bombardment created a climate of fear and uncertainty. Sherman's approach reflected a shift in the nature of warfare. The conflict was no longer limited to armies on the battlefield. It now directly impacted infrastructure, resources, and civilian life. The fall of Atlanta on September 2, 1864, after weeks of pressure and dwindling supplies, Confederate forces evacuated Atlanta. Union troops entered the city, securing one of the most significant victories of the war. The fall of Atlanta was a turning point. In the North, it sparked celebrations and renewed confidence in the Union cause. It played a crucial role in ensuring the re-election of Abraham Lincoln, solidifying political support for continuing the war. In the South, however, the loss was devastating. It signaled that the Confederacy was losing its ability to sustain the fight. Total war and its impact following. The capture of Atlanta, Sherman made a controversial and historically significant decision. He ordered the evacuation of civilians and prepared the city for military use. Large portions of Atlanta were destroyed, particularly infrastructure that could support the Confederate war effort. This marked the beginning of Sherman's broader strategy of total war, a concept that aimed to destroy not only enemy armies, but also the economic and logistical systems that supported them. Sherman believed that by breaking the South's capacity to wage war, he could bring the conflict to a faster end. Grant's larger strategy, Sherman's success in Atlanta, was not an isolated event. It was part of Grant's coordinated national strategy. While Sherman advanced in Georgia, Grant continued to engage. Robert E. Lee's forces in Virginia, through relentless campaigns such as the Overland Campaign and the Siege of Petersburg. The objective was clear: apply simultaneous pressure across multiple fronts, leaving the Confederacy with no opportunity to recover. This coordinated approach marked a turning point in the Union's military effectiveness. Psychological and political effects. The capture of Atlanta had far-reaching consequences beyond the battlefield. In the North, it shifted public opinion dramatically. War fatigue had been growing, and many feared the conflict would never end. Sherman's victory provided proof that the Union could achieve decisive success. This directly influenced the 1864 presidential election, helping Abraham Lincoln secure a second term. In the South, morale declined sharply. The loss of a major city like Atlanta made it increasingly clear that the Confederacy was struggling to defend its territory. The road to victory after Atlanta, Sherman would continue his campaign with the famous March to the Sea, further demonstrating the effectiveness of total war. Meanwhile, Grant's continued pressure on Lee eventually led to the surrender of Confederate forces in 1865. The fall of Atlanta had set these final events in motion. Conclusion: Sherman's march on Atlanta was more than just a military campaign. It was a defining moment in the American Civil War. Through strategic coordination, relentless pressure, and a willingness to adapt to the realities of modern warfare, Union leaders like Ulysses S. Grant and William Tecumseh Sherman reshaped the course of the conflict. The capture of Atlanta weakened the Confederacy, strengthened Union resolve, and helped secure the political leadership necessary to see the war through to its conclusion. In the end, it demonstrated a powerful truth about war. Victory is not achieved by battlefield success alone, but by strategy, coordination, and the ability to break the enemy's capacity to continue fighting.